Atrio the Dark Wild finally left early access at the beginning of 2023, and this game offers a very different take on logistics meets, I guess, I have no mouth and I must scream, with a pinch of Don't Starve. But unfortunately, there's one issue that I have with this game that at best leads to a very annoying intro, and at worst could be a deal breaker for some of the logistic fans out there. The story of Atrio takes place in the far future where humanity is no more, very rude sentient AI have taken over, and it is up to you to figure out what is going on using the power of logistics, where the local flora and fauna are out to get you, as well as some creepy eyes in the dark that will eat you if you stay in it too long. Now, what separates Atrio from a lot of the other logistics style games we've played is that it is far more story driven. The main mode of the game, or the campaign, takes place on a linear map. Your objective is to complete whatever task your AI has. By completing these various tasks, you will unlock additional parts, new recipes, goods, products, all that great stuff. And in order to make kind of any sense of progress in the world, you need to set up lights. Wherever there is light, you don't have to worry about the dark trying to get you. But you're limited based on powering your central generator, which in turn will affect how many light bulbs you can have at one time. As you'll play through, you will unlock better sources of fuel, which means more light bulbs, more progress, that kind of good stuff. Each challenge takes place in the form of trying to craft a certain number of items or gather certain goods. Throughout the world, there's also these mini challenges where you must defend a specific point by dodge rolling or using traps, but otherwise enemies will not engage with you unless you actively go into their territory. Unlike some of the other logistics games, resource nodes are infinite, so if you come upon a patch of blood ore, you don't have to ever worry about that running out. And in this regard, it makes Atrio less of kind of the hardcore survival logistics of, say, a Factorio, and it's kind of more of a series of logistics related puzzles, as every new good will require you to adjust your setup, set up new buildings, make further progress in the world, etc, etc. And I do like kind of the twist that eventually you'll be able to capture the various strange animals around and turn them into parts for your automation, such as a frog that will suck up flowers that you can then quickly put into a storage box, or an enemy that has like a giant pressure pad for a face and use that as a way of dividing or sorting items on a conveyor belt. And this is where Atrio is, I think, at its best. Kind of like a pseudo Don't Starve, Monster Hunter, weird kind of experiment like that. But as I said in the stinger, there's one issue with this game that they are still, I think, trying to square the circle on, or trying to figure out how to get around it. And it does kind of put a damper on some of the high-level logistics. And we're going to talk about that next, but first, a quick break. And if you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with more coming soon. As I said in the stinger, Atrio does a lot that I really like, but there's one possibly game-ruining situation for it, and that has to do with how progression and automation work. As anyone who's played a logistics game will tell you, half the fun of these games is kind of mastering the automation, getting rid of those very annoying and cumbersome build orders, and having to refine items. But you see, with Atrio here, because the main game is story driven, you are not really allowed to do that. You see, in a lot of the other games we've played, the Factorio, Dyson Sphere, and so on, the automation and the logistics drive the progression and the story. Here, the story and the progression drive the logistics and the automation. You literally cannot build certain automation objects and things that we come to kind of know and expect until the game decides to unlock it for you. So right now, the footage you're seeing is taken from a bit further into the game than the first half, and I've completely redone my automation, and now I'm waiting for 99 mushrooms to finish growing and harvesting. And that takes quite a while to do, no matter what. And your reward for this is simply to then unlock something that I just have to build one of. And the game does this with kind of the story, that the AI gets annoyed with you and asks you to do very menial tasks. But the problem with it is that you really can't shine in terms of a lot of logistics until you get further in. And as a bit of a pro tip, or two very pro tips for this game. One, try to automate all your basic stuff, which, again, anyone who's played a logistics sim knows that. And two, the spring pads, as you just saw, as you're seeing things flying up and down the screen, are going to be your best friend in terms of moving things around and saving space. Now, as I said in the first part, I like this idea of using the animals and things that you capture as kind of makeshift logistics tools. I actually cheated in this game and found a little exploit to get me the sorter deer or sorter beasts a lot earlier than you should, which maybe I'll reveal if the developer asks or something along those lines. But you're still beholden to the story progression if you really want to make anything work. And because this map is 100% linear and handmade, it means that there really isn't a lot to explore or do while you're waiting for the various tasks to complete. Now, I'm going to show some footage of the kind of survive while you're activating the resource nodes, which I do like, but arguably they can be very action intensive, which is not normally something that we see from logistics sims. But it is another way of giving you some more variety. And when the game kind of gets out of its own way in terms of locking essential features and it's just you, the crazy animals, and logistics, Atrio is a really solid game. And I really, again, like this concept of getting the creatures in order to do the work for you, but you have to hunt them down and capture them before you can actually make use of it. It adds like another little wrinkle to the progression side of things. And I would say that if you are a fan of logistics style games, and maybe you're not looking for one that is in depth as Factorio, or one that's as, wide and massive in terms of scope and scale as Dyson Sphere, Atrio the Dark Wild is a really solid game, and I do hope that we see this concept get explored more, whether it's through DLC, expansions, or someone else trying to take this more, I guess, personal, or more like down to crazy earth style, a logistics sim, and do something with it. One last thing to keep in mind before we wrap up this review. The game has been patched and updated since I've played this and since 1.0, so there is the possibility that what you see or what I've been talking about may not be relevant in future versions of the game. But with that said, I would like to thank the developer for giving me a press key to check this one out. If you would like me to look at your game in the future, please get in touch. Do the liking, subscribing, and commenting. Be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.